Alright, so I've gotten a lot of requests for character development, and I'll share some of the ideas I have about how to flesh out your characters. Maybe your characters feel flat or cliched, cardboard cutouts, fake, unbelievable, and you just don't know why. Now, what I'm about to share with you, I believe, is a revelation, and it's a revelation that's helped me a lot. Now, just keep in mind that it's a lot harder for me to put this into practice than it is to tell others how to do it. Now, imagine you're walking down the street, and this tall blonde struts by you like a wannabe model. Maybe she is not so wannabe. Maybe she fits the role. She is wearing dark sunglasses and has an expensive handbag. Her $500 shoes really stood out to you. Now, you have developed a first impression of this woman. Maybe it's a good impression or a bad impression, but she is a cliché. Now, I know I'm using the word wrong, but she is something that you're used to seeing. You've seen this kind of woman time and time again, and maybe you think something bad about these kinds of women that look like this. Maybe they're airheads, you think, or maybe you think they're super hot and you want to get down their pants. The thing is, we have seen this girl time and time again in movies, in books, on the street. She is not unique, not even in the slightest. Not until we get to know her, that is. That is the key. What makes this woman an individual is her personality. She could have a likable personality or an unlikable personality. If this female were to become our best friend, how would this take place? How do we become best friends with anyone? Think about that. Think about your best friend or a good friend. How did you become so close? You got to know some of their past. They chose to share intimate past events with you. They divulged their feelings with you, how they feel about this or that. They shared secrets with you. Secrets are very important. We come to trust a person that shares their deep, dark secrets with us. Also, another thing you want to be careful to show about your character is how he feels about things. Maybe his religious views, political views, but make sure it's obviously important to the story. So he can share his thoughts on what is happening at the time, or you can share with how he feels about the thing that is occurring at the time. Over time that you get to know them as an individual, right? You get to know people eventually and they become individual to you. Now when you first meet them you think, I've seen this guy many times, or I've seen this girl many times. Nothing stands out. She's just your typical cardboard cutout. And that's why characters in a novel will feel like cardboard cutouts if you don't give them a personality. That's what distinguishes them. And you can't do that in one page. It takes, a good portion of the novel before you finally paint the character, before the reader finally starts to feel intimate and close to that character. And you do that through all these different things that I'm going to be mentioning. And it's the same way that you grow close to a person in real life. So the things that happen is you learned their sense of humor by seeing how they interact with others and with you and the things they say. You learn things like their favorite color, favorite animal, favorite type of movie, favorite type of food. This is how you get close to somebody. In time you got to know your best friend's strengths, weaknesses, fears, talents, and so forth. All this is what made them an individual in your eyes. So these are the things that you want to share about your characters. Now back to that tall blonde. Think of a movie you saw that had a tall blonde, typical woman in it. Now I thought of the 1995 movie Clueless. At first we do not identify with such a person because they are flat and they have no life. They're a cardboard cutout. We stereotype them. But if the movie or book does a good job at developing her, then she'll grow on us. We need to get to know many things that I mentioned above about our characters. But more importantly, and we need to share these things, we need to share these things with the reader. But we need to see her struggle, see her change. This is an important thing in any story. Your main character needs to change. They need to go through living hell. You need to put your You need to put your character through living hell and back. It is also good that other characters in your story change. The story itself needs to change your character. That's what the plot's all about. Perhaps he or she overcomes one of their fears, has his strengths tested, and so forth. It is our job as writers to show the reader the uniqueness of our characters, to show them their personalities and reveal their strengths, to show their personalities, reveal their secrets, fears, talents, strengths, weaknesses, and so forth. It's not an easy job, but we have to do it, and we have to do it in the context of the story. We have to reveal it over time in proper context. We can't just stop the story and go, oh yeah, well, she fears snakes. We have to show that she fears snakes in a scene, or that he fears snakes, such as Indiana Jones. And how it shows he fears snakes throughout that movie series. We as the writers have to think of clever scenes so that we can reveal these aspects about our characters. Think of popular characters in novels that you've grown to love, like maybe Huckleberry Finn or Tom Sawyer or something. Now think of them on the surface. Guess what? On the surface, they are typical. Take every character in the book of Stand by Stephen King. On the surface, they're typical. But as we get to know them, we grow to love them. But they start out as cardboard cutouts. Now what about Huckleberry Finn or Tom Sawyer? On the surface, can you get any more cliché than them? They are your typical young hillbillies. Mark Twain did a great job in revealing all the aspects I mentioned above about them. You have to reveal an important part about their personality in the very beginning of your novel or story. Mark Twain pulled this off gracefully with the scene where Tom convinces the kids not only to paint the fence for him, but to pay him money so that they could paint the fence. This reveals so much about Tom's personality. We learned that he is playful, full of energy, and clever in a cute way. I believe the main character needs to have at least one weakness and one strength. Her strength ought to be tested, and she ought to overcome or come to grips with her weakness. Many people love Dexter, not because he's a serial killer and they have warped minds. They love him because he has qualities that we can relate to. He has problems that also we can relate to. We know his deep, darkest secret, and no one else does. That makes us feel special. He shared his personal thoughts with us and with no one else. With showing and not telling, with well-written scenes, reveal these qualities about your character, and your readers will grow to see them as a unique individual. They will either love or hate that unique individual depending on what his qualities are. And the list of things that you want to keep in mind: fears, likes, dislikes, his type of sense of humor, secrets, problems, struggles, weaknesses, strengths, talents, important snippets of their past, their feelings, their favorites like movies, food, color, books, etc. What moves their emotions, what makes them angry, sad, happy, etc. And remember to share their ideas about things. In a novel, you have more than enough time to fully develop one or more characters. With a short story, you do not. I try to stick to one very important past event that makes sense in that context of the story. Depending on the type of story, I choose what qualities I want to reveal. But using a weakness and a strength is a good idea. Test his strength and show how he overcomes or comes to grips with his weakness. Their weaknesses could be a fear of spiders that they overcome or they come to grips with. Like in the new Indiana Jones movie, he is forced to grab a snake. That must have been very hard for him, but he did it. Doesn't mean he overcame his fear of snakes. It just means he come to grips with it for that moment. He conquered his fear enough for that moment to grab onto the snake and be pulled out of the quicksand. Alright, so I hope that this, I guess it's sort of an audio video because I'm not doing the cartoons this time. I think I'll just put images to this one. And hopefully this helps you develop your characters better. I would recommend listening to this more than once, just in case you missed some of it.